Salam, everyone. Welcome to my first episode of Quran Contradictions Debunked. The contradiction we'll be looking at today is: does the Quran say that semen comes from between the backbone and the ribs? What we will prove. There is no contradiction in 86, 5-7. Here is a video of a Christian explaining the contradiction. I'll play it for you.
Quran 86, 5-7. So let man observe from what he was created. He was created from a fluid, ejaculated, emerging from between the backbone and the ribs. So here we see Allah's great and merciful knowledge about where sperm comes from. Unfortunately, for some reason, he seems to have missed the mark once again, because we know that sperm does not come from between the backbone and the rib. We know it comes from another location. It's a little bit lower, shall we say. It is amazing that the creator of all the universe, the one who made humans the way they are, can get so much wrong about such a basic biological function. So next time someone says that there are biological secrets discovered within the Quran, that look at them and ask them about.
So as you can see, the Christian says that the Quran says that semen comes from between the backbone and the ribs. So Allah exposing the deniers. There are three reasons people say the Quran has contradictions and deny the truth, and Allah tells us every single one. So the first reason people deny the truth is people will use a falsehood to say the Quran is wrong. So let's have a look at 1856. And we send not the messengers except as bringers of good tidings and as warners, and those who disbelieve dispute using falsehood to invalidate thereby the truth, and have taken my verses and what they have been warned in ridicule. An example of this could be is when a disbeliever says the Quran says this, but we actually know this, so the Quran is wrong, when in fact what they're saying is a falsehood. The second reason why people reject is that they don't have knowledge of the subject and then say the Quran is wrong. The third reason is they don't have the correct interpretation of the verse and say the Quran is wrong, which is shown in 1039. Rather, they have denied that which they encompass, not in knowledge. So they don't have the knowledge of what Allah is saying. Could be, for example, embryology. Maybe Allah says something and people say it's wrong because they don't have the correct understanding of it, and whose interpretation has not yet come to them. So there may be a verse where the people say, oh, this is wrong, but they actually have the wrong interpretation of the verse. Thus did those before them deny, then observe how was the end of the wrongdoers. The Christian in the video that I showed you, and all the Christians that say this is a contradiction, they're making the third mistake, is that they don't have the correct interpretation of the verse and say the Quran is wrong. And I'm going to show you how this is true. So let man consider from what he is created. He was created from a fluid ejected, emerging from between the backbone and the ribs. Let's take a closer look. After studying the verses and the Arabic, I have proved the verse is not even talking about semen, but instead talking about something else. I will first start by proving the verse is not talking about semen. Here is the part of the verse on Quran corpus we are focusing on. The words we need to focus on are the words main in Arabic and the words dafikin. Apologies if I'm saying the words incorrectly. The Arabic word used in verse 86:6 is main, which literally means water or fluid. Here are some examples of how it is used in the Quran. You can see on the right, so main, water, 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 water. And here's from the dictionary, it can mean a water or fluid, water, liquid, or fluid. So how does Allah refer to semen in the Quran? Whenever Allah refers to semen in the Quran, He uses the Arabic word nufatan, meaning a semen drop or small quantity of semen. But verse 86:6 says He is created from a water, main. This verse cannot be referring to a drop of semen because Allah does not use the Arabic word nufatan like He does consistently everywhere else, but instead uses the Arabic word main, meaning fluid and water in this verse. Really think about it, guys, how Allah consistently uses the word semen drop, nufatan, when He's talking about semen, but in this verse, water is used. So you can see the intelligence of the author of the Quran, how they're using specific words to indicate specific things. So the fact that people think that this verse is talking about semen when Allah says water, and then consistently whenever He's talking about semen uses the word nufatan, shows a lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding of Allah's verses, which He said is a reason why people deny the truth. The second word we're going to look at is dafakan. It is the last Arabic word used in the verse. This word is only used once in the entire Quran and is commonly translated as ejected. When we look at the other verses of the Quran, when Allah talks about semen being released, He always uses the Arabic word tumna, meaning emitted. As you can see here in verb form, tumna is to emit, is emitted. You emit, emitted. And if we have a look at the other verses, 53:46, from a semen drop, nufaten, when it is emitted, tumna. Was not he a semen drop, nufaten, of semen, mayayin, emitted, tumna yumna? But in 86:6, he uses a different word, dafakan. Why? Like in 86:6, why doesn't Allah say nufaten? Why doesn't He say that it's tumna, that it's emitted in the same way He says it in every other verse? So what does dafakan really mean? If you actually check the Arabic dictionary for the word, it means he poured it forth. Water poured out signifies the water poured out, poured forth. The actual definition of the word is a water poured forth. The actual translation of the verse. So the two verses should be translated as, he is created from a water, main, poured out, dafakan, emerging from between the backbone and the ribs. When a man ejaculates, does the semen pour out of his penis or is it ejected? This is further evidence the fluid is not semen. Because whenever Allah talks about semen being released, He says it's a fluid, it's a nufatin emitted. But this verse is saying it's a water that is poured out, which does not match the description of how semen is released from the penis. The verse is saying man is created from a water that pours out, which is emerging from between the backbone and the ribs. Verses compared. Semen verses. From a semen drop, nufaten, when it is emitted, tumna, was not he a semen drop, nufaten, of semen, mayin, emitted, yumna. The verse we're looking at, 86:6, he is created from a water, main, poured out, dafakin. How can they be talking about the same thing? Why did Allah use the word main for fluid water instead of nufaten, a semen drop, like He does everywhere else in the Quran? Why did Allah use the word dafakin, meaning to pour out, when every other place He talks about semen being released, He uses the Arabic word tumna, meaning ejected? So what does the verse actually say? This verse is not talking about semen, but is in fact talking about the amniotic fluid which surrounds and enters the baby in the womb and is involved in the entire creation process of the human being in the womb. The water poured out is when the woman's water breaks and the water pours out from her womb, as well as the human, when his creation is finished. The womb, baby, and fluid are actually located between the backbone and the ribs. As you can see by the image, you can see the rib cage, you can see the backbone in the middle of it. And this is where the fluid comes from when it is poured out. The woman's water breaking. I have more proof of this coming soon. Science has discovered the importance of this fluid that Allah asks us to reflect on. So let man consider from what he has created. He is created from a fluid poured out. Amniotic fluid is responsible for protecting the fetus, temperature control, infection control, as it contains vital nutrients, stem cells, hormones, and antibodies. Lung and digestive system development. By breathing and swallowing the amniotic fluid, the baby practices using the muscles of these systems as they grow. Muscle and bone development. As the baby floats inside the sac, it has the freedom to move about, giving muscle and bones the opportunity to develop properly. Lubrication. Amniotic fluid prevents parts of the body, such as fingers and toes, from going together. Webbing can occur if amniotic fluid levels are low. Umbilical cord support. Fluid in the uterus prevents the umbilical cord from being compressed. This cord transports food and oxygen from the center to the growing fetus. So as you can see, this is a fluid that that a human being is created from it. The baby literally is breathing it in. It's in its lungs. It's inside the baby and it's all around the baby. So it is important for its creation. And Allah knows best. Thank you for watching.